Chapter 1772. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand why Xiao Jin liked Yan Xiaoyi so much. After waiting for some time, Xiao Jin didn't take any action. Those devil-class students who were surrounding Shi Shanglan and Yan Xiaoyi started to lead the tempo with great enthusiasm. Seeing the flash of complacency in Shi Shanglan's eyes, Yi Qing Luo didn't want to wait any longer. She only had one thought now: other than her Xian, all the other men were unreliable. You all. She hadn't even shouted the word enough out. An even more explosive voice was heard: if you want to eat, go eat with him. Yan Xiaoyi's face was as cold as ice as she waved her arm. A burst of invisible profound qi was released from her body. The profound qi opened a path for the devil-class students. Yan Xiaoyi walked straight ahead. The devil-class students crowded around her too tightly. Yan Xiaoyi's push made the group of students fall onto the ground one after another. Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi, don't go. Shi Shanglan looked at Yan Xiaoyi's departing figure as he anxiously chased after her. But the students behind him fell onto the ground one by one, and he revealed a guilty look as he turned back to help those students up. Are you all right? Did you fall anywhere? Shi Shanglan's concerned voice was as gentle as the spring breeze. His expression was filled with concern. Don't blame Xiaoyi, she's in a bad mood today and I've been pestering her, it's all my fault. Young Master Shi, how could this be your fault? Young Master Shi, don't blame yourself. We all know Goddess Xiaoyi's character. She's just shy. The students rubbed the areas where they fell as they shook their heads, comforting Shi Shanglan. Suddenly, the female student who fell the hardest rubbed her bruised elbow. She looked at Shi Shanglan, who was acting like a humble young master and kept apologizing. The dissatisfaction she felt for Shi Shanglan suddenly gushed out at this moment. Even if she's shy, she can't be like this. Young Master Shi likes her, but that doesn't mean she can trample on Young Master Shi's sincerity. A voice was heard. A few female students who were slightly dissatisfied looked at each other in dismay. I also feel the same way. Goddess Xiaoyi is just relying on Young Master Shi's liking for her. Young Master Shi had painstakingly helped Boss Qing Luo to obtain 4 invitations from the treasure-gathering chambers, so it's totally not a problem for Young Master Shi to stay for a meal. Exactly. It's just a meal, don't act all high and mighty. Shi Shanglan's expression was slightly panicked. He suppressed his anger and said, we are all classmates in the same class and also brothers in the same team. You guys shouldn't say that about Xiaoyi. The expression on his face gradually became serious again. No matter how Xiaoyi treats me, I will gladly endure it. I hope that you will not criticize Xiaoyi anymore. This was an action of protecting one's beloved. Once again, these female fans were attracted. There are also quite a number of male fans. The sweet smile on Yi Qing Luo's face started to crack. At this point, she could not help but admire Shi Shanglan's methods. Every word and sentence was to protect Yan Xiaoyi. But every word and sentence was purposely to erode Yan Xiaoyi's position in the hearts of the devil-class students. The voices of devil-class's students gradually quietened down. Shi Shanglan then said apologetically, you can have your meal anytime, but I won't be staying today. After such a thing happened, devil-class's students couldn't keep him any longer. One by one, they sent Shi Shanglan out of the sky lodgings. Chapter 1773. As Yan Xiaoyi left in a rage, devil-class's students quietly dispersed after sending Shi Shanglan off. Apparently, no one had the mood to eat lunch. The moment the word heaven left, it fell into silence once again. Yi Qing Luo's gaze lightly swept past those few people who were still in the courtyard. Her vision finally stopped on Xiao Jin. She lightly curled her lips as her eyes revealed some ridicule. Are you satisfied? Throwing this sentence, Yi Qing Luo had already turned around and walked towards the direction which Yan Xiaoyi had left to. Under the big tree, the man with his arms crossed slowly stood up straight. His hands fell to the sides of his body. He hung his head dejectedly, as his body emitted a thick sorrowful atmosphere. The words which Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing were about to say were stuck at the side of their mouths. The duo's vision fell onto Qiao Jin's 2 arms, on the sleeves which had already been burnt into ashes. Greenish-black bruises were deeply imprinted on his arms. The area which was burnt was the area where Qiao Jin's palms were when he crossed his arms earlier. The bruises were the traces of 5 fingers. It could be seen how much willpower he had expended, before he could endure it, to stand on the same spot without moving. Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing exchanged glances, as they saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. They obviously loved each other so deeply. Why must they torment themselves, torment the other party? Yiqing Luo followed the direction which Yan Xiaoyi left towards, as she stopped at the main courtyard's garden, beside a pond. Yan Xiaoyi stood by the side of the pond, as she stared blankly at the pond. Hearing footsteps coming from behind, she immediately turned back. On seeing Yiqing Luo, who was dressed in red, an unconcealable sense of disappointment flashed past her eyes. Yiqing Luo walked up and stood side by side with her. Not Jin Zi, disappointed? The young lady whose thoughts were seen through, her expression turned cold, as she immediately turned her face away. Why are you disappointed? No hope, no disappointment. You can lie to me, but can you lie to yourself? Yiqing Luo sighed softly. If you can lie to your own heart, then, I believe you. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips tightly, as she didn't reply. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, as she patted her shoulder heavily. Honestly, have you thought of changing a man to love? Yan Xiaoyi's petite body stiffened. She glanced sideways at him. What about you? Can you give up on His Majesty? I'm different from you. Yiqing Luo shook her head. He's willing to say that he loves me, and he will let me know that he loves me. Yan Xiaoyi was silent for a moment, and her gaze returned to the green pond. Are you here to feed me dog food, or to comfort me? You're the one who came up with this topic. I'm just answering you casually. Yiqing Luo put on an innocent look. Yan Xiaoyi rolled her eyes at her. Yiqing Luo followed her as she looked at the pond, which was filled with floating leaves. No matter how you and Jin Zi develop in the future, as a friend, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't use Shi Shanglan to anger Jin Zi, and don't get too close to Shi Shanglan. You noticed it too? Yan Xiaoyi raised her eyebrows and smiled bitterly. Am I very pitiful? The person I love doesn't love me, and the person who says he loves me is constantly using me. She raised her head and gazed at the clear blue sky. The corners of her eyes sparkled, as it sparkled. Perhaps, all my good luck in this lifetime has been used to get to know you, my sister. Yan Xiaoyi took a deep breath, as she tried her best to maintain the calmness in her voice. Yiqing Luo looked at Yan Xiaoyi's side profile. Chapter 1774. As it turned out, Yan Xiaoyi had long sensed it. However, this was also a matter of course. Because Yan Xiaoyi had loved. She understood the feeling of loving someone and the feeling of loving someone. Even if Shi Shanglan was acting, no matter how well he acted. Yan Xiaoyi could feel it too. Because she could not feel Shi Shanglan's heart. He clearly didn't love her, but he kept saying that he loved her. How could someone as smart as Yan Xiaoyi not notice Shi Shanglan's intentions? However, she couldn't say it out loud. Because no one would believe it. I will take care of him. Yiqing Luo stretched out both her hands as she looped them around her shoulders. Perhaps, tomorrow's auction will be able to find out his real motive. You weren't fooled by him? Yan Xiaoyi looked at her curiously. Devil classes students are being toyed with by him. I thought you would also be cheated by him. Other than the two of you, I don't trust anyone else. Yiqing Luo smiled. The Imperial Palace had investigated him. He's clean. Looks like it's very tricky. Yan Xiaoyi leaned her head on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Tomorrow's auction house, I'll go as well. Should we bring Jin Zi along? Yiqing Luo hugged her. Tomorrow will definitely be a dangerous day. If he goes, I will be assured of you. Yan Xiaoyi was silent for a moment, then nodded heavily, all right. Shi Shanglan's invitation to her was definitely not an ordinary auction. For invitations, her and Dmo Xian, Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin. Dmo Xian would protect her. Xiang Xiaoyi. With Xiao Jin around, Dmo Xian didn't need to be distracted. She was becoming more and more curious about Shi Shanglan's identity. Qing Luo, do you think? If we really let it go, isn't it good for him? For me, for our team? Suddenly, the girl's dazed voice was heard from her shoulder. Qing Luo was stunned as she lowered her eyelids. Seeing the fear in Yan Xiaoyi's eyes, she tightened her arms and sighed. Once emotions are involved, people will become irrational. According to the current situation, if you can really let it go, I will naturally agree. She really couldn't understand Xiao Jin. Since she loved a man who would not give a response, it was better to give up as soon as possible. The longer it dragged on, the sadder and more hurtful it would be. Yan Xiaoyi's eyelashes trembled. The bewilderment and fear in her eyes became clear in an instant. Suddenly, she pushed Qing Luo's hand away and stood up. Not waiting for Qing Luo to react, Yan Xiaoyi had already fished out a silver object from her bosom. Qing Luo didn't see clearly what it was when Yan Xiaoyi threw the thing into the pond. Yan Xiaoyi's actions were swift and decisive. It was as if he was afraid that he would hesitate and regret it. With a flash of silver light, the item sank into the water. Yan Xiaoyi's body seemed to have been drained of all her strength in an instant as she half knelt on the ground. Tears trickled down from the corners of her eyes and fell to the ground. She lowered her head, her body trembling. The thing that Yan Xiaoyi had thrown away just now was probably a memento that Xiao Jin had given her. Qing Luo sighed softly as she slowly squatted down beside her, taking the crying girl into her arms. Yan Xiaoyi's emotions stabilized after an hour. Qing Luo comforted her in a low voice as she hugged Yan Xiaoyi and the both of them left together. Not long after they left, a slender figure walked out from the darkness. Walking slowly, he stood at the place where Yan Xiaoyi was half kneeling earlier. A look of pain appeared on his unattractive face. He raised his eyes and his deep gaze swept past the jade-green pond water. His well-built body was tightly tensed up. He was worried about Yan Xiaoyi as he chased after her. But he saw the scene of Yan Xiaoyi throwing a silver object into the pond water. That thing. Chapter 1775. Throwing that thing away was equivalent to throwing away their past. Which also meant that Yan Xiaoyi was really going to give up the awkward relationship between them. Xiao Jin looked at the pond water for a long, long time. In his mind, the scene of Yan Xiaoyi throwing the thing into the pond water kept appearing. The usually resolute man, at this instance, trembled slightly as his eyes turned red. His heart had a dull tearing pain. He painfully shut his eyes, using all his energy to control his own emotions. But ultimately, he couldn't win against his body's uncontrollable actions. A splash sound was heard. Xiao Jin jumped into the water. He hid the pain in his pupils, as he swept his gaze across everything in the pond water. Finally, following his memory, he swam towards the place where that silvery thing fell into. Submerging into the water, like finding a needle in a haystack, he searched for the thing that Yan Xiaoyi had thrown into the pond water. The entire pond of duckweed was stained all over him. Yan Xiaoyi's giving up, wasn't it what he wanted? But why? His heart still ached, so much pain that he couldn't breathe, so much pain that he was about to suffocate. The next morning, Qing Luo and the disguised Dmo Xian, as well as Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi took the invitation card and headed towards treasure-gathering chambers. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will emerge victorious in every battle. Qing Luo had long gotten all the information regarding treasure-gathering chambers from Tao Zi. Treasure-gathering chambers was South Continent's biggest auction house, and could be said to have monopolized the entire South Continent's rare treasures auctions. Other auction houses were totally unable to be compared to treasure-gathering chambers. Moreover, this treasure-gathering chambers, other than the two powerhouses supporting it on the surface, rumor had it that the powerhouse behind it was a mysterious large clan. This clan was mysterious. No one in Nirvana realm knew about it. Unfortunately, this mysterious clan couldn't be investigated and couldn't be offended. It was rumored that a large family from another continent wanted to create trouble at treasure-gathering chambers. Not to mention that they were chased out by treasure-gathering chambers guards. In less than half a month, that large family was exterminated. No one in the family survived. There were at least hundreds of similar examples. As time passed, treasure-gathering chambers mysterious and powerful started to spread in Nirvana realm. And in a short span of a few years, it had become South Continent, and even Nirvana realm's auction houses. However, this Jubao Pavilion was indeed capable. The auction was held once every 3 months, and the 10 treasures that were brought out every time would set off a wave in every continent. There were also people from other continents who had traveled thousands of miles from other continents to attend the auction. After reading all the information, Yiqing Luo turned her head to look at the man beside her. Even though half of his handsome face was covered, his temperament was still outstanding. What kind of power is the mysterious family behind Jubao Pavilion? There's nothing about this mysterious family in Peach's information. Dmo Xian's gaze swept across the information in Yiqing Luo's hands. If the 3,000 peach blossoms can really investigate the powerhouse behind the treasure-gathering chamber, then this so-called mysterious clan isn't considered mysterious anymore. Yiqing Luo curled her lips. My Peach's detection ability is very strong, all right. Dmo Xian only smiled. The 4 of them arrived at the entrance of Jubao Pavilion. The auction ceremony was filled with people coming and going, and early in the morning, it was already a boiling cauldron of voices. Countless high-ranking officials and dignitaries were crowded at the entrance, waiting to enter the treasure-gathering pavilion. Outside the treasure-gathering pavilion, 2 rows of guards stood ramrod straight. A row of 10 people, each guard's profound grade was earth profound and above. No wonder it was treasure-gathering chamber, each and every one of the guards were all generous. Following that, 2 middle-aged men dressed in brocade robes walked out from treasure-gathering chamber. Their expressions were grave, extremely solemn. Chapter 1776. These 2 people were the manager and deputy manager of Treasure Gathering Pavilion who were in charge of checking the invitations. Their checks were extremely strict. Those high-ranking officials were used to being arrogant, and when faced with such strict checks from the 2 managers, they didn't show any signs of unhappiness as all of them were extremely cooperative. There were many people who entered Treasure Gathering Pavilion and all of them were queuing at the back, waiting to enter. Yiqing Luo and the other 3 were not considered early, so they stood at the back of the queue in an orderly manner, waiting to be checked together with the various high-ranking officials. As they waited, there was another long queue at the back. The more people there were, the livelier it became outside Treasure Gathering Pavilion. There were quite a number of high-ranking officials who directly took the opportunity to build relationships with each other. There were also quite a number of families from other continents who started to flaunt their existence. The more people there were, the more mouths there were. Very quickly, there were noises coming from the queue. Plop. A heavy object fell to the ground. A person was pushed out from the group and fell on his face in a sorry state. Amidst the noise, there were a few ladies' scornful ridicule. You trash, you actually dare to participate in the auction ceremony, do you know what place this is? The one who was pushed onto the ground was a neatly dressed young man with delicate looks. He climbed up from the ground and looked at the person who pushed him out timidly. I know this is the auction ceremony, I have an invitation, why can't I come? Invitation? Just based on you? The lady sneered in disdain. You must have stolen this invitation. You're just a trash with no background at all, where did you get this invitation from? What's the use of saying so much? Bring his invitation over and we'll know if it's real or fake. Another lady chimed in. When the other ladies heard that, they all nodded their heads in agreement. 4 ladies dashed out from the queue and grabbed the young man's collar as they searched for the invitation on his body. These few ladies were around 15 to 16 years old, while the young man looked like he was 16 to 17 years old. A dispute between the youngsters. The various powerhouses naturally wouldn't stir up trouble. They just treated it as waiting for time to watch a farce. The young man struggled frantically. "What are you doing?" "Of course my invitation is real, let go of me." His struggles couldn't resist the four ladies. Not long after, a woman took out a gold inlaid invitation card from his body. The woman looked at the invitation in surprise. "This kid really has an invitation? Open it and see if it's his name." Another woman snatched it and opened it. A few heads leaned forward and saw the name on the invitation. Their expressions were a little strange. "He's just a piece of trash. How could he have an invitation? This is an imitation, right?" "That's right, this must be a fake invitation that the little trash made to sneak into the auction." The four women looked at each other and smiled, seeing the disdain in each other's eyes. Suddenly, the woman holding the invitation raised the invitation high up and took a step back. "Little trash, you actually dared to use a fake invitation to deceive the treasure-gathering pavilion. Tear up the invitation. Let's see how he's going to lie now." A few girls teased each other, huddled together, and began to tear apart the gold inlaid invitation. Seeing this, the young man hurriedly rushed forward. "It's true. This is a real invitation. You can't tear it, you can't tear it." But just as he rushed forward, the four women lifted their legs and sent him flying. The young man was so anxious that his forehead was full of sweat. He rushed forward and wanted to snatch it again. However, those women seemed to be playing with puppies. Chapter 1777. The invitation card was raised up high. The young man's eyes were red and filled with panic as he stared at that invitation card without blinking. The ladies laughed together as they pointed at the young man and ridiculed him. "Little waste, even if you brought the invitation card into the treasure pavilion, you don't have any money to bid for it. I'm doing this for your own good, in order not to let you throw the Alchemist Guild's face." The lady laughed loudly as she tugged at that invitation card, preparing to release her profound chi to destroy the invitation card. Suddenly, the lady's wrist, which was using her profound chi, was struck by a sharp pain. Following that, the invitation card in the lady's hand was swept away by a hurricane. The invitation followed the hurricane and landed on a palm that was as fair as jade. "Which blind thing dares to snatch my invitation card?" The lady's face flushed red from anger when her invitation card was snatched away as she turned her head and stared at the person who snatched the invitation card. When the lady's vision fell onto the person who opened the invitation card and looked at it leisurely, their expressions changed drastically. "Yi-Ching Luo. It's you. It's you." A lady covered her mouth as her eyes widened as she looked at Yi-Ching Luo. Hearing this name, the other ladies all looked over. Immediately, their faces turned pale. And the young man who was kicked on the ground raised his head abruptly when he heard this name. A sliver of joy appeared in his eyes. "Miss Yi, you. Why are you here too?" The young lady was dressed in a fiery red robe, peerlessly beautiful. Her devastatingly beautiful face made everyone's gazes congeal on her. Her sweet smile could charm all living beings. She was talking about this red-robed young lady. Yi-Ching Luo waved the invitation card in her hand. "Bai Ming Che, do you want it?" The young man's eyes widened. Yes. This young man was the one whom Yi-Ching Luo and the Mu brothers met when they headed to the Alchemist Guild to take part in the Alchemist Guild's competition, Bai Ming Che. Yes, those four women were the ones who broke her stone table in the Alchemist Union's competition and spread rumors that she had used her body to seduce the Alchemist Union's young master in an attempt to win first place. Ever since the Alchemist Guild, she had almost thrown these few people to the back of her mind. She had not expected to meet them in the South Continent. These people were still as arrogant as ever. "If you want, use them to exchange." Yi-Ching Luo's lips curled upwards as she raised her eyebrows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. They was obviously referring to these four women. Bai Ming Che's expression changed. How can I take it, use your hands. Yi Qing Luo held the invitation between two fingers. Of course, if you don't want this invitation, then you can turn around and leave. I want. Of course I want it. Bai Ming-che said hurriedly, his handsome face full of anxiety and uneasiness. But how can I? He looked at the four fiendish women and was so anxious that he was about to cry. How was it possible for him to get the invitations from these four women? If he had this ability, he wouldn't have been bullied by these four women. Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders. If martial arts don't work, then poison. Anyway, as long as no one dies, we can play however we want. Poison? Bai Ming-che was startled. Her clear and pure eyes blinked. That's right. He couldn't defeat these four women, but he was an expert in refining pills. His alchemy innate talent was much stronger than these four women. As long as he knew his limits and didn't kill them, wouldn't he be able to solve the problem by poisoning them? Chapter 1778. The four ladies' faces sunk as they pointed at Yi Qing Luo and started scolding her. Slut. What did you say? You hit me and still dare to let this little waste poison us? Do you believe that I will not let you see tomorrow's sun? Relying on the fact that they had the advantage in numbers, the four women were not afraid at all. This Yi Qing Luo had indeed shone brightly in the Alchemist Guild. But that was only limited to alchemy talent. Generally speaking, alchemists needed a lot of time to research and practice before they could raise the success rate of alchemy step by step. Because of this, those talented alchemists would absolutely not spend time to cultivate profound qi. Moreover, their family members were rushing over to the treasure-gathering pavilion. The other two ladies pointed at Bai Ming-che. Little waste, if you dare to touch us, don't think that just because you become a disciple of the Alchemist Guild, our Zhao family won't dare to touch you. My Qian family too. And my Sun family. My Li family. Zhao and Li family were both in the South Continent and were considered as famous and influential families. There were also a few genius profound practitioners who were famous in the Jianghu, and they were doing quite well in the Jianghu. Whereas the Qian family was a large family in the North Continent. Sun family was a large family in the East Continent, and it was rumored that they were related to the royal family. These four families, which were neither too big nor too small, had been connected by marriage for generations. Because of this, the four young ladies from the four families often mingled together and acted in collusion. Based on the status of their four families, if one of them mingled outside, she might flip the car. But the four of them represented the four families and mingled together. This car would not flip no matter what. The crowd of onlookers were all famous and influential people from various continents. They also understood why these four ladies dared to bully a young man in such an arrogant manner. After all, his background was strong. Luckily they didn't speak up for that young man earlier. Otherwise it would be troublesome if they got involved with the four families. They weren't afraid of trouble. It was mainly because they didn't want to stir up trouble. Everyone's gazes looked towards Yi Qing Luo, who had stepped out to stop them. This young lady, she must have gotten into trouble. Bai Ming-che, however, completely ignored the four girls who were proudly announcing their family background. He stared at Yi Qing Luo as his eyes sparkled. Miss Yi, is what you said true? Then I'll do it, okay? And, don't worry and do it boldly. If anything happens, I will take responsibility. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand generously. The two of them completely ignored the group of four who were so proud of themselves. Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li froze on the corner of their lips. You too. This lady will definitely teach you a lesson. However, their clamoring simply couldn't stop Bai Ming-che's approaching footsteps. Miss Sun stared at Bai Ming-che's hand. You are a disciple of the Alchemy Union. If you poison innocent people, you will be violating the Alchemy Union's rules. The other three ladies nodded in agreement. Yes. You can't poison it or else you'll be kicked out of the Alchemy Union. The few of them had racked their brains to enter the Alchemy Union. That was why they had participated in the Alchemy Union's competition. They more or less knew about the Alchemist Union's membership. The reason why these four ladies were afraid was because their alchemy innate talent was indeed not as strong as Bai Ming-che. If Bai Ming-che really poisoned them. Chapter 1779. Innocent people? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile. Bai Ming-che, are they innocent people? Bai Ming-che shook his head, snatching his invitation and hitting him. They were not innocent at all. Then it's not considered as violating the union. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Even if it is, you can rest assured that I can protect you. Her brother was the young chief of the Alchemist Guild. It was more than enough to protect Bai Ming-che. You slut. Miss Li couldn't bear it any longer as she released her profound chi and rushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Bai Ming-che, that little waste, was stupid and slow-witted. If it wasn't for this slut's instigation, how would Bai Ming-che think of poisoning them? First settle this little slut, then settle Bai Ming-che. When Miss Sun saw this, she quickly coordinated with Miss Li and attacked Yiqing Luo's direction. Profound chi was released and a ray of profound chi struck straight towards her. Only 16 years old, mystic profound 4th grade. Not a strong innate talent, but not bad either. She was used to fighting against experts. Meeting this kind of low-level shrimp, Yiqing Luo had no intention to fight at all. Yiqing Luo gave a yawn as she lazily evaded the duo's attack. Then, he raised his leg and stomped on their chests. With a bang, the two flew out and fell heavily onto the ground. Ah, pain, pain, pain. Slut. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my cousin is? You. How dare you hit me? Just one kick and the two rolled on the ground in pain. The remaining two girls looked at Yiqing Luo in horror. That slut had only given the two of them a kick. They couldn't even stand up from the pain. They were very clear about Miss Sun and Miss Li's ability. How could they be defeated so easily? The two of them were in shock when they suddenly felt something slapped on their backs. The two of them immediately turned their heads and saw Bai Ming-che covering the medicine bottle in his hand with a serious expression. Miss Xiao and Miss Qian's faces changed. He reached out to touch the place where Bai Ming-che had just patted. You little trash, what did you do to me? Bai Ming-che took a few steps back, raised the bottle in his hand and said proudly, don't come near me. This is a bottle of itching powder. I only sprinkled a little on your body. At most, it will only make you itch for a day or two. If you dare to come near me, I will sprinkle the entire bottle of itching powder on you. Itching powder? What the hell was that? If you drink this bottle, you will probably scratch your own skin until it festers, and only death can release you. Bai Ming-che shook the bottle in his hand to show off. Deliberately mystifying things. The two women looked at each other. They were all apothecaries. He had never heard of itching powder. It was very obvious that Bai Ming-che was afraid of violating the oath of alliance and didn't dare to poison them, so he deliberately lied to them. However, the two of them were about to attack Bai Ming-che. Suddenly, from the depths of his heart, he felt a tickling sensation. It was the kind of itching feeling that came from the bones. The profound energy in their bodies suddenly dissipated amidst this extremely unbearable itch. The two of them couldn't hold it in any longer as they desperately scratched their own skin. But no matter how they scratched, they couldn't stop the itch. On the two of them, there were streaks of blood marks. The clothes on their bodies also became messy under the crazy scratching. The two ladies from the Sun and Li family who were lying on the ground were horrified when they saw the two women. Especially when he saw the people around him pointing at the two girls. Chapter 1780. What a joke. They didn't want to be drugged with some tickling powder. Just by looking at the two ladies, they knew that it was definitely not a good feeling. They might as well faint on the ground. Bai Ming-che saw the two madly grabbing at him and stuffed the bottle into his space pocket contentedly. I didn't expect the first time I refined this kind of medicine, it's really effective. As he said, he walked towards the two madly grabbing ladies. The ladies saw him coming and were so scared that they wanted to escape. "Take out your invitations. Give me the invitation." Bai Ming-che chased after them. The two ladies were scratching their hearts. How could they outrun Bai Ming-che? After Bai Ming-che caught up, he searched for the invitation on their bodies. But after searching for half a day, he didn't find any invitation on them. I didn't, we don't have any invitation, we just followed along to join in the fun." Miss Zhao cried like a pear blossom in the rain. After that, Bai Ming-che went over to the two ladies. The two who pretended to faint were not willing to let a man touch them so wantonly. They immediately woke up from the shock. But the result was the same, they didn't have any invitation on them. The crowd was in an uproar. It turned out that these four ladies didn't have any invitation on their own. Seeing that Bai Ming-che had an invitation, they purposely came to find trouble. Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li cried until their eyes were hazy, as they huddled together. Bai Ming-che didn't get an invitation and his face was full of distress. "Bai Ming-che, come over here." Suddenly, Yi Qing Luo spoke. Bai Ming-che immediately went up to her. "Miss Yi. Here, your invitation." Yi Qing Luo threw the invitation in her hand into Bai Ming-che's arms. Bai Ming-che caught the invitation and was a little confused. But I didn't get their invitation for you." "Why do I need their invitation for?" Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. Why did she feel that this young man's brain wasn't very good? Bai Ming-che blinked his eyes. "But, didn't you ask me to give you their invitation?" Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and mercilessly smashed his head. "I am telling you, what is called giving you a taste of your own medicine?" Bai Ming-che frowned, a little confused. Yi Qing Luo looked at this rash young man as she helplessly sighed. The only reason she had helped him was because Bai Ming-che had sincerely wanted to help her back in the alchemy guild. This young man was pure and innocent. But it was a little too silly. "Alright, it's going to be my turn soon, you go and queue up too." Yi Qing Luo looked at the queue in front. There were still 10 over people left and it would be Dmo Xian's turn. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand as she walked towards the direction of Dmo Xian and the others. Her body had just leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace. A sharp and cold voice came from behind her. "Little girl, don't you know the rules of Jubao Pavilion? You actually want to cut the queue so openly?" "Cutting the queue?" Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. These words were obviously referring to her. Yi Qing Luo turned her head and looked towards the direction where the voice came from. A plump middle-aged man dressed in a luxurious brocade robe walked over, escorted by a dozen guards. Sun family's young miss saw that man and immediately climbed up from the ground. Eldest uncle, you're finally here. Xiao, is about to be bullied till she can't face anyone." The middle-aged man glanced sideways at the disheveled Sun family's young miss and the expression on his face sunk slightly. Chapter 1781. The middle-aged man released a powerful aura. His cold and sinister eyes stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. When the people around them saw this, they couldn't help but shrink their necks and look away. Someone in the crowd recognized the middle-aged man and whispered, "Is that Prime Minister's son of the East Below continent? He actually came to participate in the auction?" "Prime Minister's son? He is the Prime Minister of the Eastern continent. I'm afraid this little girl is doomed." The people in the queue were all discussing. However, after recognizing Prime Minister's son, he did not immediately approach him to curry favor with him. These people were all shrewd people. He spent most of his time among the upper class. Naturally, he would not easily choose a side. This girl in red had a noble and elegant temperament. Every smile and frown was captivating, yet it caused others to not dare to have any profane thoughts in their hearts. Furthermore, even after knowing that the other party was Zhao Qian's granddaughter and the young miss of the four clans, he still showed no signs of fear. It could be seen that the young lady's background was not inferior to those four young ladies. He just didn't want to talk about this girl. She then turned to look at the young man who looked like an idiot. She had just heard the four young ladies say the words, Alchemy Union. The Alchemy Union. That youth was from the Alchemy Union. Even if the monarch of the eastern continent came, they wouldn't dare to pick a side easily. Hearing those discussions behind her, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at Prime Minister's son with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Oh then, treasure-gathering pavilion is the place for your son family to behave atrociously? You! Prime Minister's son's face was filled with rage, his face filled with dignity. Little girl, this old man is not going to argue with you. This treasure-gathering pavilion has its own rules. You cutting the queue is a violation of the rules. Yiqing Luo touched her chin as a crafty arc appeared in her eyes. Did I cut the queue? How come I don't know? She then covered her mouth in shock, her eyes filled with innocence. So Prime Minister's son has eyes of 1,000 miles and saw me cutting the queue from 1,000 miles away, so he specially rushed over to teach me the rules of Jubao Pavilion? Pfft! The people in the queue could not help but laugh out loud. This young lady was indeed not someone to be trifled with. It was obvious that she was mocking Prime Minister's son for trying to bully her and deliberately make things difficult for her. He was also mocking Prime Minister's son for being disrespectful. A person from the East Water continent actually came to interfere in the matters of the treasure-gathering pavilion. Prime Minister's son's face darkened. He strode towards Yiqing Luo with a burst of valiant pressure, pressing down on Yiqing Luo's nerves from all directions. A pair of sinister eyes, revealing a biting cold warning light. Trying to use his own aura to scare Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she raised her head to look at Prime Minister's son, who was blowing his beard and glaring at her. That's right, Prime Minister's son. Are you here to take part in the auction? Then you have to take out your invitation first to prove that you are someone with an invitation and status. Prime Minister's son furrowed his brows as a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. This little girl, who exactly was she, to think that Zhang Xian was so fearless in the face of his oppressive might? She could even tease him with a smile. Ridiculous. A guard behind Prime Minister's son scolded. Prime Minister's son is the Prime Minister of a country, so of course he has an invitation. Who do you think you are? How dare you question Prime Minister's son's status? Yiqing Luo was innocent. Your young Miss Sun is also from the Sun family, but doesn't she have an invitation as well, so why is she still here? She blinked her eyes. Chapter 1782. You're talking nonsense. I didn't. Miss Sun didn't expect Yiqing Luo to bring the topic back to her. Her eyes were red as she sobbed and held on to Prime Minister's son's hand. Eldest uncle, I really didn't. I just have never seen an auction ceremony before. Yiqing Luo added another stab. Oh? Never seen an auction ceremony and want to join in the fun? Then that Alchemist Guild's disciple knocked into your feet and flew out by himself, causing a body of injuries? Pausing, she clicked her tongue, and his invitation letter also flew into your hands by itself, then manipulated you to tear it? Yiqing Luo said it word by word, extremely clearly. Especially when she intentionally emphasized on the word himself. The people in the queue could no longer hold back their laughter when they heard Lin Fan's words. Miss Sun's face flushed red. She grabbed onto Prime Minister's son's sleeve tightly, hoping that her eldest uncle could teach Yiqing Luo a lesson on her behalf. However, when Prime Minister's son heard Alchemist Guild's disciple, his eyes sunk and the gaze he shot towards Bai Ming-che was filled with a deeper meaning. Yiqing Luo saw the change in Prime Minister's son's emotions. Her lips curled as she revealed a teasing smile. She wasn't afraid of creating trouble. South Continent, the headquarters turf. She had the headquarters vice president backing her up, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Eldest uncle. Seeing Prime Minister's son not saying a word, Miss Sun carefully called out to him. Following that, she winked at her sisters. They were all in cahoots with each other, so the other three naturally understood Miss Sun's meaning. Zhao and Xian family's young ladies were still desperately grabbing their own bodies. Prime Minister's son, this slut is simply spouting nonsense. She dares to instigate the Alchemist Guild's disciple. She totally doesn't put us, the Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li families in her eyes. Miss Li also held her chest. The person who created trouble is her. She was the one who hit us. It was that Alchemist Guild's disciple who poisoned us. The few young ladies all treated Prime Minister Sun as their last hope. If they couldn't get back at the grievances they had suffered today. What face did the four young ladies have to continue to roam the world? Prime Minister Sun narrowed his shrewd eyes. As the Prime Minister of the Eastern Continent, his every word and action represented the Eastern Continent. Naturally, he wouldn't stand up for these juniors just because of a few words. However, the red-clothed young lady before him was indeed too arrogant. He was insolent and arrogant. Most of the people in the queue were from influential families from all over the world. If he took a step back here today, in the future, the Sun family would be a joke in the pugilistic world. Prime Minister Sun couldn't afford to lose face like this. Prime Minister Sun thought to himself, thinking about how to solve this problem. Suddenly, a group of people walked out from within the treasure-gathering pavilion. The ones in the lead were a boy and a girl who were only 16 or 17 years old. Behind them were 10 guards in uniform and 2 white-haired, dignified old men. When this group of people appeared, the 2 stewards and the 20 Earth Xian guards who were examining everyone's invitation bowed respectfully to the young man and woman. Young Master Shi, Miss Shi. The appearance of these 2 young men immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many people greeted the 2 of them. Chapter 1783. This situation made Prime Minister Sun's eyes filled with joy. These 2 youngsters were simply his lucky stars. This matter was forgotten just like that, which was beneficial to Sun family. As for that young lass, they could settle it secretly. These are the 2 from Shi family, one of Treasure Pavilion's public powerhouses? Right, that's the 2 children of Shi family, elder brother Shi Ruoyu, younger sister Shi Ruoshi. I heard that in this generation of Shi family, the master only married 1 wife, leaving behind a son and a daughter, and no other heirs. Upon seeing the 2 from Shi family, almost everyone in the queue wanted to greet them. But they couldn't easily leave the position they were standing at. Otherwise they would have to queue up again. In the crowd, a tiny voice was suddenly heard. The 2 from Shi family, despite being so busy, still took the time to come over. Are you here to personally welcome Prime Minister Sun? This sentence made everyone instantly reacted. That's right. Today was the auction. As one of the public powerhouses of Treasure Pavilion, the Shi family should be busy in Treasure Pavilion. But this pair of siblings actually came to Treasure Pavilion. Apparently they had heard the servants' report and specially came to the entrance to welcome them. Of all the people present, the one with the highest status was Prime Minister Sun, who came from the East Continent. Shi family's siblings were obviously here to welcome Prime Minister Sunday. Everyone instantly forgot about the matter of Prime Minister Sun suffering a setback in front of Yiqing Luo. They all casted envious gazes towards Prime Minister Sunday. To be able to make the Shi family's siblings to welcome him personally, he must be a respectable person whom Treasure Pavilion recognized. Which meant to say, Prime Minister Sun's status in the future would also rise because of this. Prime Minister Sun was originally puzzled. He had never had any dealings with Treasure Pavilion, nor had he interacted with the Shi family. Why would the Shi family's siblings come out personally to welcome him? But in front of the various powerhouses, they were envied by everyone. Prime Minister Sun's suspicious heart slowly expanded. What everyone said seemed to make sense. He was after all the Prime Minister of East Continent. The Shi family's siblings took the initiative to express their goodwill, probably because they had their eyes on East Continent's powerhouses and wanted to befriend East Continent, so they specially fawned on him. With this in mind, Prime Minister Sun straightened his back and displayed his authority as a Prime Minister. The embarrassing situation caused by the little girl just now also disappeared in an instant. When the Shi siblings looked at Prime Minister Sun, their expressions were filled with unconcealable joy. Immediately, Shi Ruoshi released Shi Ruoyu's arm and trotted forward. Shiruashi was petite and looked like a little loli. Prime Minister's son was stunned by Shiruashi's enthusiasm, but he quickly regained his senses. He extended his arms towards Shiruashi and revealed an extremely amiable smile. Girl, slow down. Grandfather doesn't know how to," before he could say the word run. The little girl in the scarlet dress ran past Prime Minister's son and quickly ran behind him. Prime Minister's son, everyone in the queue, what was going on? Did Miss She run so fast that she ran over her head and didn't manage to stop? Then, they saw Shiruoyu slowly walk past Prime Minister's son, who had his arms outstretched and was frozen on the spot. It was understandable that Miss She hadn't been able to stop in time. But where was young Master Shi? Just as everyone was in a daze, passing Prime Minister's son and staring at the Shi siblings. Shiruashi cried out in joy, "Sister Qing Luo, you're here too." Chapter 1784. Queuing crowd. What situation was this? Everyone had yet to digest Miss Shi's actions. Shiruoyu had already walked in front of Yi Qing Luo as he gave her a smile. "Qing Luo, I didn't expect to meet you so soon." Shiruoyu raised her head as she gave a cute smile. "I didn't dare to believe that my class's student had arrived. Luckily I dragged my brother out to confirm it." Queuing crowd. So, the Shi siblings specially came out, just to confirm, the identity of the red-robed young lady? What was the relationship between the Shi siblings and the red-robed young lady? From the looks of it, their relationship was absolutely close. Yi Qing Luo gently hugged the cute girl in her arms as her charming eyes fixed on Shiruoyu. Although she looked calm on the surface, but her heart was filled with astonishment. She had not expected that one of the powerhouses in Treasure Pavilion was actually Shiruoyu and Shiruashi's family. When she saw the information that Peach had arranged for her, her attention was placed on the mysterious powerhouse behind Treasure Pavilion. She didn't pay too much attention to which two powerhouses were the two powerhouses on the surface. "Qing Luo, if I knew that you were interested in the auction, should have gone to the main courtyard earlier to look for you," Shiruoyu said warmly as his gaze surveyed Yi Qing Luo. "Devil class's brothers didn't come over? Why don't I prepare more invitations and send them over to the main courtyard?" Saying that, Shiruoyu turned around and was about to enter Treasure Pavilion to prepare the invitations. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly stopped him. "No need to trouble yourself, the four of us are enough. Sister Qing Luo, will bring you around. There are many things in Treasure Pavilion that sister has not seen before." Shiruoyu held Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly. Yi Qing Luo looked at the queuing crowd. Those pairs of eyes were staring straight at her. It looked like she indeed had to rely on her connections to cut the queue to enter Treasure Pavilion. If she were to stay behind to be investigated, this group of high-ranking officials and dignitaries would probably rush up. Yi Qing Luo coughed lightly. "Let's go." Shiruoyu happily held Yi Qing Luo's arm. Yi Qing Luo held Dmo Xian's arm, and along with Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin, she also pulled along Bai Mingche as they cut the queue and walked into Treasure Pavilion. Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something when she just entered the door. She patted Shiruoshi's arm lightly, signaling her to wait for a moment. Then, she turned around, blinked her charming eyes, and put on an innocent and pure smile. She stared at the dumbfounded Prime Minister's son and said, "By the way, Prime Minister's son, for the sake of your age, I can only show you what it means to cut in line with my actions." The people in the queue couldn't help but burst into laughter. This Prime Minister's son was too much of a bully. This wasn't the East Wave Continent. How could a Prime Minister of the East Wave Continent dare to cause trouble in the South Wave Continent? Slander Yi Qing Luo for cutting the queue? Now, someone was cutting the queue openly for you to see, and you couldn't even be angry. This was a resounding slap to the face. He thinks that he is the Prime Minister of the East Wave Continent and wants to put on airs in the South Wave Continent. It is understandable that the juniors are insensible and domineering, but he is already so old. Where does he get his face from? What young lady cutting the queue? From what I see, he just wants to stand up for his arrogant and despotic niece. This matter, who is right and who is wrong, we can see it clearly. It's obviously those four young ladies who are bullying others. Even if the monarch of the East Wave continent is here today, there's no way to refute it. Chapter 1785. Anyone with discerning eyes could tell who was the real big shot. Ha ha ha. Earlier Prime Minister's son really thought that the Shi siblings were here specially to welcome him. Right, he even called Miss Shi lass. He's indeed someone who mingles in the imperial court. This ability to turn hostile is really unparalleled. Just a moment ago he was still threatening that red-robed young lady, and the next moment he turned into an amiable old grandpa. Ahaha. I laughed my head off. His words reminded everyone of Prime Minister's son's arrogant and smug look just a moment ago. All of them couldn't help but burst out laughing. Prime Minister's son's face turned green and red from everyone's laughter. Everyone's gazes were like torches. Prime Minister's son was both ashamed and embarrassed. But he couldn't flare up at the surrounding people. At this moment, if he was enraged, it would definitely cause the crowd to rebound. He stared fiercely at the four ladies who didn't dare to say a single word as his heart was filled with extreme hatred. If it wasn't for these four juniors, how would he be so embarrassed today? That red-robed young lady. He must cut her into pieces. Right, aren't you curious about that red-robed young lady's identity? She looks like she's only 14 or 15 years old, but her aura is so strong. And she even made the Shi siblings treat her with respect, surely. She's that mysterious powerhouse's daughter behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion? That's not right. Earlier the Shi siblings seemed to have called her something. There's too many people and it's too noisy, so I didn't hear it clearly. I think they called her Qing Luo. Right. That's Qing Luo. After this sentence was said, immediately, the bustling crowd outside Treasure Gathering Pavilion fell into a dead silence. Immediately following that, it suddenly started to boil like boiling water. Qing Luo. That Heavenly Academy devil classes Yi Qing Luo? The blazing flame nest who saved the various academies, and just based on one person's ability, she killed the King of Darkness's conspiracy and informed the Imperial Palace about the Dark Forces base camp, allowing the Imperial Palace's men to exterminate the Dark Forces Yi Qing Luo? I heard that the Shi siblings are in Universe Academy. They're also the students who followed Master Gui Wu into the blazing flame nest. Shi siblings are so friendly towards Yi Qing Luo. It should be because she saved their lives in the blazing flame nest. Right, that person must be Yi Qing Luo. The main academy's director had personally admitted that student Yi Qing Luo is their hero. Countless voices of discussion rose one after another. Everyone started to admire Yi Qing Luo even more. He despised Prime Minister's son even more. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's identity, Prime Minister's son's expression turned extremely ugly. He resisted the strange looks from the people around him and led a group of people to the back of the queue. No matter what, he couldn't miss this auction. Yi Qing Luo and the rest entered the treasure-gathering chambers. The Jubao Pavilion was extremely spacious, and the auction hall could accommodate at least 20,000 people. There were also thousands of private rooms on the second floor. A place with Qing Luo around is indeed bustling. Shi Ruoyu laughed lightly. Yi Qing Luo laughed dryly. The one who stirred up trouble this time was this kid. I just saw injustice on the road, so I pulled out my sword to lend a helping hand, and at the same time, acted as a hero to save the little boy. Little boy? Bai Ming-che blinked his eyes, not understanding the meaning of this term. What I mean is a young man who is good-looking. Yi Qing Luo explained patiently, so you and young Master Shi are both little boys. But our ages are older than you. Bai Ming-che tilted his head, as he didn't understand. However, his wife was so amused by the little girl that she did not notice his mood at all. Whereas for Qiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi, who were 3 steps behind Dmo Xian, the atmosphere was indescribably strange. Of course, on the surface, the atmosphere was just right. The strange feeling came from Xiao Jin's feelings. As expected of the number 1 auction house. The 4 walls are either inlaid with gold or silver. It's even more dazzling than Holy Thief's room. It's blinding. Yan Xiaoyi tugged on Xiao Jin's arm, her lively and beautiful eyes flashed with the brilliance of surprise. *tch Jin, if we take all these things back, wouldn't Holy Pirate laugh like crazy? Xiao Jin looked at the slender hand on his arm, and his eyes dimmed. Not getting a response, Yan Xiaoyi seemed to be rather annoyed as she raised her fist and punched the back of Xiao Jin's head, *ck. Slut Jin, I'm talking to you. How dare you ignore me? *tch Jin. Xiao Jin was slightly dazed. How long had it been since she called him *tch Jin? Chapter 1787. Yan Xiaoyi saw that he was still in a daze after being punched. She clenched her fists and tried hard to maintain the expression on her face, hiding the flash of pain in her eyes. After that, she grunted lightly and jogged far away from Xiao Jin. I can't be bothered to talk to you. I'll just get a taste of being rich myself. Saying that, Yan Xiaoyi hastened her footsteps as she walked past Yiqing Luo, squeezing through the crowd in front. Xiaoyi. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she immediately called out. However, Yan Xiaoyi seemed to not have heard her voice as she blended into the crowd and disappeared. Jin Zi, what's going on? Haven't I asked you to follow her properly? Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as she turned her head towards Xiao Jin. But he saw Xiao Jin standing rooted to the ground, his eyes staring blankly in the direction that Yan Xiaoyi had left. Yiqing Luo was filled with reprimands, but after seeing Xiao Jin's expression, she couldn't say anything at all. She pursed her lips and let go of Shiruashi's hand. She approached Xiao Jin and whispered in his ear, "It's not safe here. If you don't want anything to happen to Xiaoyi, you'd better follow her closely." Pausing, Yiqing Luo's eyes were tainted with a thin layer of ice. No matter what you treat Xiaoyi as, I only hope that you protect her well. Xiao Jin's body stiffened as he abruptly shifted his line of sight, meeting Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo didn't say another word as she directly turned around and returned to Shiruashi's side. Together with Shiruashi, they continued their journey forward. Dmo Xian didn't even bother to look over as his gaze was all on Yiqing Luo. The 3 of them had already gone far away. Xiao Jin was still in a daze as he stared at the direction where Yan Xiaoyi had disappeared. An intense dull pain assaulted his heart. It was as if a sharp blade had pierced his heart. His heart was ruthlessly cut into pieces. Slut Jin, in his mind, Yan Xiaoyi's voice reverberated. Again and again, pounding against his heart. Xiao Jin clenched his fists tightly, his body also tensed up. Ever since he saw Yan Xiaoyi today, he felt that it was extremely strange. Now, he finally understood where the strange feeling came from. When Yan Xiaoyi saw him, she was no longer cold, no longer expressionless, and no longer deliberately avoiding him. On the contrary, her attitude towards him. As usual. His attitude was exactly the same as when they were still brothers. Her smile, her tone, her ridiculing tone. Everything returned to how it was in the past. Did he completely give up on the only possibility between them and chose to return to the past? This was clearly what he had been hoping for. But when he realized this, his heart ached even more than yesterday when he saw her throw something that belonged to them by the pool. It's not peaceful here today. I only hope that you can protect her. Yiqing Luo's deep and solemn voice surfaced in his mind again. Xiao Jin's eyes suddenly turned cold. That's right. Today, the treasure-gathering pavilion was destined to not be peaceful. He couldn't let Yan Xiaoyi leave alone. He had to protect Yan Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the piercing pain in his heart as he swiftly charged into the crowd, searching for Yan Xiaoyi's figure. Yi Qing Luo followed Shi as they circled around some of the places in Jubao Pavilion which were meant for people to admire. Other than the storage of treasures and some private areas of Jubao Pavilion, they had never been there. He had basically finished touring the Jubao Pavilion. Chapter 1788. Not long after, about 4 hours had passed. Shi had been maintaining her excited spirit and had led Yi Qing Luo to wander around blindly, so her energy was severely depleted. The auction was about to start. Yi Qing Luo supported Shi and based on the number on the invitation card, they found their location. Shi Shanglan's invitation card was for the VIP cabin on the second floor. 4 people to a cabin. Yi Qing Luo entered their cabin under the guidance of the attendant. The private room faced the stage of the auction. A few strands of white gauze covered the view of their private room. There was a square mahogany table with exquisite desserts, delicious fruits, and fragrant green tea on it. 4 chairs, under the veil, stood side by side. Seeing that his miss had followed them into the private room, the page boy quickly brought a chair over. Shi was so tired that she laid down on the chair to rest. Yi Qing Luo walked to the front of the white veil and lifted it. Behind the veil was a horizontal railing that reached her waist. Looking over, one could see the entire auction hall. Even those guests in the opposite cabin who lifted the veil could see it. Yi Qing Luo took a look at Shi who had fallen asleep on the chair and smiled helplessly. This lass, it was only the second time they met and she was so assured of them. One must know, Shi was the miss of the Shi family. If she was some evil person, to kidnap Shi, then she could threaten the Shi family, threaten the treasure-gathering pavilion. Lil Luo, how much longer do you want to watch? Behind her, a sour voice was heard. Before Yi Qing Luo could turn back, a scorching feeling covered her back. The man's boiling hot chest was pressed against her back. Her body was brought into Dmo Xian's arms. The both of them fell onto a chair not too far away from Shi. Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hands in shock and hugged his neck tightly. Ah Xian. The words had just left her mouth when the man's scorching breath covered the sky and earth. Before she could finish her words, it was forcefully swallowed back into his stomach. His kiss was extremely forceful. It was overbearing, an irresistible force. The sweet and scorching breath intertwined between their lips. Yi Qing Luo's body kept quivering under his kiss and his large palms which couldn't be restrained. Her face was already dyed crimson. Her slightly opened and closed eyes were filled with a misty and seductive luster. Why did he suddenly turn blue? And he was kissing her so hard. The kiss was so green. Little she was still asleep. If she woke up and saw them like this, wouldn't they be teaching the wrong things? Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo's consciousness awoke from the dizziness of Dmo Xian's kiss. She immediately tried to struggle. But just as he moved, all of a sudden, he put more force into his lips. He fiercely sucked on her little tongue. Yi Qing Luo's petite body shuddered violently as an extremely shameful voice leaked out from her mouth. Her entire person, once again fell limply into Dmo Xian's arms. He kissed Yi Qing Luo until she was about to suffocate before he released her lips. Then, his hot, wet lips pressed against her neck. Yi Qing Luo's petite body trembled even more violently as her little hand weakly rested on his chest. Ah Xian. Don't continue. This is treasure-gathering chambers. Although there was a veil to cover. But this veil was hazy, how much could it cover? And the outside was a boiling cauldron of voices as people came and went. Adding on to the fact that there was a little girl who could wake up anytime. This was simply too exciting. Chapter 1789. When Dmo Xian's fingers slid into her fair skin, Yi Qing Luo completely went berserk. At this moment, how could she still have any romantic thoughts? She raised her fist and smashed it hard on Dmo Xian's head. Her whole body turned soft. This punch was slow and powerless. Dmo Xian easily grasped her fist. His fingers penetrated into the gaps between her fingers and intertwined with hers. However, Dmo Xian stopped the action of igniting the fire on her body. Ah Xian, you also need to look at the occasion. Yiqing Luo blushed and stared at Dmo Xian resentfully. Dmo Xian stared straight into her eyes. His peach blossom eyes carried a pool of spring water. His charm was extremely seductive. Yiqing Luo's little heart was easily teased to the point of thumping madly. She suppressed her wildly beating heart and struggled to get out of his arms. That. Ah Xian, calm down, she hadn't finished her words. Her body suddenly leaned forward. She was embraced by Dmo Xian. His arms tightly wrapped around her waist. The man pillowed on her shoulder and his low, husky voice revealed his suppressed emotions. Little Luo, I am jealous. Jealous? Yiqing Luo's eyes widened. In my eyes, Shiruo Yu is just a brat, not him. Dmo Xian raised his head, his enchanting peach blossom eyes fixed on Yiqing Luo. In his eyes, there were some indistinct grievances. Yiqing Luo felt a chill down her spine, her little hand supported his chest and pulled apart the distance between them. I am not flirting. Her sincerity towards her Ah Xian was witnessed by heaven and earth. How could she make Ah Xian jealous? And make him feel aggrieved? This style, it was totally different from her Ah Xian. I don't like your sight on other people, even women. After Dmo Xian finished this sentence, he seemed to be aware of his embarrassment and tightened his arms, hugging Yiqing Luo tightly. Yiqing Luo's widened eyes slowly contracted. A pair of charming eyes were stained with a sweet smile. So, Xian was jealous of little Shi. However, that was indeed the case. Ever since she met Xiao Shi, she had been pestered by Xiao Shi and had no chance to speak to Dmo Xian. If it was her. Dmo Xian dared to give her the cold shoulder because of his own friend. She had long flown into a rage and asked Dmo Xian to live with his friend. But he had always endured it. He followed behind her silently. It was only when Shiruashi fell asleep from exhaustion that he vented his dissatisfaction in this way. This man, she was really too cute. Yiqing Luo rubbed her head against his chest. It's my fault, I didn't consider your feelings, there won't be a next time. Her obedient attitude of admitting her mistake pleased Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian lowered his head and kissed her hard on her lips. His slender fingers held her chin. If there's a next time, I will use my own methods to make it impossible for you to take your eyes off me. His smile was incomparably devilish and seductive. His shimmering peach blossom eyes were overflowing with the warmth of spring. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Behind his smile, why did it make her feel? He felt a chill run down his spine. Her waist was inexplicably sore. Her legs were inexplicably weak. What kind of omen was this? Yiqing Luo's long curly eyelashes fluttered as her cheeks suddenly turned crimson red. You're flirting with me again. Suddenly, she understood what Dmo Xian meant. Chapter 1790. Dmo Xian raised his brows domineeringly. I'm flirting with my woman, there's nothing wrong with that. Alright, there's nothing wrong with that. But, Ah Xian was gradually developing into a domineering CEO. What was going on? Or was it that in every man's heart, there was a domineering CEO? He was domineering to her, he was strong to her. He was able to make her blush. Was she unable to resist flirting? Looking at the lovely person in his arms, her face was blushing and her eyes were misty. No matter how one looked at her, her eyes were seductive. Dmo Xian's blood was surging. This look made Dmo Xian's blood boil even more. His arms tightened as he pressed the soft and delicate girl in his arms into his embrace. Yiqing Luo was half lying in Dmo Xian's arms. Feeling the scalding sensation on her stomach, how could she not know what it was? She was already dead. She blushed immediately and struggled to push Dmo Xian. Don't mess around. The auction is about to start. She struggled and rubbed against the man. This only made Dmo Xian's eyes darken. Yiqing Luo looked into that pair of peach blossom eyes which were full of affection. She only felt that if eyes could be used to do it, she would probably be done 7 or 8 times by Dmo Xian's eyes. That strong desire, Yiqing Luo could see it clearly. She was getting more and more flustered. Ah, Xian, calm down, I don't want to put on an erotic show with you here. Yiqing Luo's little heart trembled, little she is still on the side. This man was a little too jealous, wasn't he? This private room was only covered by a white veil. When the wind blew, the veil fluttered. If Dmo Xian was really here, he would definitely take her. She would really collapse. She won't wake up. Dmo Xian's hoarse voice rang in her ears. The man's heavy breathing sprayed into her ears. Extremely heavy. The elegant sandalwood fragrance revealed an aura that made one blush. Yiqing Luo's delicate body was also trembling from the heat, slightly warm. Hearing the man's firm words, Yiqing Luo suddenly understood something. She fell asleep. It's you who did it. The man raised his eyebrows in disbelief. This man had made up his mind to take the opportunity to teach her a lesson. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly came from the auction hall. Immediately, the noisy hall quietened down. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and stared at Dmo Xian, as her fist pounded on his chest. The auction is about to start, stop fooling around. Saying that, she had already stood up from Dmo Xian's arms. This time, Dmo Xian did not stop her. The man's hand on her waist slid down. The elegant scent of sandalwood disappeared. The man's unique warmth also gradually dissipated. Yiqing Luo's heart actually felt a little empty. Her heart skipped a beat and she clenched her fists. She would not feel empty, lonely, or cold. She was not the kind of woman who could not live without a man. She must not let Dmo Xian lead her astray. Shaking off the distracting thoughts in her mind, Yiqing Luo walked briskly to the side of the veil and lifted it. She saw the tall stage in the middle of the auction hall, and the white-browed old man who was beside Shi Ruoyu earlier stood there, explaining the rules of the auction. The hall, which could accommodate more than 20,000 people, was actually filled with people. Looking at the private rooms in front, it was also full. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but sigh silently. It was indeed the #1 auction house in the southern continent. It indeed lived up to its reputation. She watched the bustling scene in high spirits. Chapter 1791. Ah Xian, look, Prime Minister's son. Yiqing Luo pointed to a private room on the opposite right as a meaningful smile surfaced in her eyes. But before she could finish her sentence, her body felt light and she was once again tightly embraced in Dmo Xian's embrace. Dmo Xian snorted lightly. What are you looking at him for? He's just an old man, what's there to look at? Yiqing Luo laughed into a ball in his arms. Don't tell me you're jealous of him too. Eat. Dmo Xian's answer was very straightforward, as though it was a matter of course. Yiqing Luo's body leaned into his embrace. She could clearly feel the man's rising temperature. There was also a certain place that didn't show any signs of stopping. Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. Her long and narrow eyes flashed with a bewitching radiance. She leaned closer to Dmo Xian. Her fragrant breath gently blew into Dmo Xian's ear. She could feel the man's body gradually stiffening. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing as she hooked her arm around his neck, giving a charming smile. Little Xian, bear with it first and get through the auction. After we return, you can do whatever you want. Dmo Xian's body tensed up even more. The veins on his forehead were bulging. Heavy breaths fell on Yiqing Luo's ears. It made Yiqing Luo giggle continuously. This lass was simply like a demon. Dmo Xian's eyes were scarlet red as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. That gaze seemed as though it wanted to strip Yiqing Luo clean. The old man in the auction hall had reached the end of his speech. Dmo Xian's body tensed up as he hugged Yiqing Luo tightly and used her petite body to fiercely press against a certain part of him. Yiqing Luo's alluring face flushed red, but she didn't struggle any further. Dmo Xian leaned close to her ear. His voice was husky and exceptionally alluring. "All right." One word and Yiqing Luo's ears were about to get pregnant. Yiqing Luo stared at him as she pushed his hand away. "I'm not going to mess around with you anymore. The auction has already started. Hasn't Jin Zi found Xiao Yi yet?" Jin Zi and Xiao Yi both had invitations. The name of their private room was printed on the invitation. He should have been able to find them. It had been so long, but they still hadn't come to the private room. Thinking of that man who was smiling warmly like jade, Yiqing Luo's heart surged with an ominous premonition. "There's Jin Zi here, no need to worry." Dmo Xian's expression resumed his usual devilish splendor. He walked to the side of the veil and scanned the crowd below. Jin Zi has feelings for Xiao Yi. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she glanced sideways at him. Jin Zi's ability, isn't it only at Earth Profound 7th grade? I can barely protect myself, but protecting Xiao Yi is a little difficult. Dmo Xian looked ahead. The expression on his face was rather complicated. After a while, he sighed softly. "He is not as simple as he seems, but I can be sure that Xiao Jin will not harm any of you." Jin Zi wasn't as simple as she thought. Indeed, she had always felt this way. He just didn't want to speculate too much about his brother. Everyone had their own secrets. A secret that he did not wish to be explored by others. However, you know Jin Zi's identity? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she felt curious. Dmo Xian only smiled. Seeing that he didn't intend to say, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to ask any further. Since Dmo Xian had already said that Xiao Jin could protect Yan Xiao Yi, she believed in Dmo Xian's words. At this moment, the auction stage started to stir up the atmosphere and heat. Chapter 1792. It was a supreme being grade armor. It was rumored to be used by Sky Mystic Supremes. Wearing it, unless it was a supreme grade weapon or above, it would absolutely not be able to damage the armor at all. The first auction item was a supreme grade. Everyone instantly felt their blood boiling as they started to look forward to the 10 auction items in the baptism auction. This kind of life-saving armor had aroused the enthusiasm of many cultivators. After more than 10 rounds of bidding, it was finally won by a family with 100,000 gold coins. Following that, there were some 5th-grade medicinal pills, supreme-grade weapons. There were also some strange jades. The further it went, the more precious the auction items were. The excitement in the entire auction hall was stirred up by wave after wave. However, Yiqing Luo was drowsy looking at it. She had no interest in these things at all. In terms of medicinal pills, even if she couldn't refine them, she still had her ancestor-level master, Ghost Doctor. What medicinal pills could she not have? Weapons? Jewelry? She could casually pull out one from the profound phoenix ring and it would totally beat those auction items. Young mirage beasts? Her battle pets were either holy beasts or battle-type mirage beasts. Looking at the 20,000 over people in the hall, their cheers were earth-shattering and the excitement was surging. Yiqing Luo started to wonder. Could this group of people be hired by the treasure-gathering pavilion? Were these things worth their excitement? Also spent a lot of money to smash. If she knew it was so profitable, she would have taken out all the things in the profound phoenix ring to exchange for money. If everyone present knew what Yiqing Luo was thinking, they would probably be gnashing their teeth and scolding Yiqing Luo for being perverted. Did you think everyone was as perverted as you? Did you think everyone was as lucky as you? You could pick up divine weapons, holy beasts and experts just by walking on the road. Don't you dare to cheat too much. You still have the cheek to complain about our excitement? Time passed by minute and second. By the time it was the 7th auction item, another 4 hours had passed. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist as she turned her head to look at the drowsy Shi Ruoxi. His gaze paused on the 2 empty chairs for a moment. Jin Zi still hasn't returned. Did something really happen? Dmo Xian wrapped his arm around her waist and nodded his head absent-mindedly. Yiqing Luo suddenly pushed his hand away and stood up. Did something really happen? Dmo Xian squinted his bewitching peach blossom eyes as he propped his chin on one hand and leaned lazily against the chair. Something's happened. Dmo Xian would never crack such a joke. But his attitude, why was he so nonchalant, as if he didn't care? This also meant that Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi should be fine. But knowing that something had happened to them, even if she knew that they were fine, Yiqing Luo still couldn't help but worry. Where are they? Yiqing Luo somehow felt that she was always in control of Dmo Xian's hands. Dmo Xian reached out and grabbed her arm. Yiqing Luo's body lost its balance and fell into his arms. The man chuckled beside her ear. Lil Luo, do you really think of me as an omniscient deity? At this moment, I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Yiqing Luo was burning with anxiety as she stared at him. Dmo Xian gently caressed her hair. I indeed don't know where they are, but someone does. Who? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled upwards as his gaze turned towards a certain direction. Yiqing Luo followed his gaze and looked over. Chapter 1793. At the opposite right corner of their private room, under the floating veil, Yiqing Luo could vaguely see the person seated inside. Brown embroidered gold robe, clouds of auspicious clouds, golden edges rolling. His figure was tall and straight, his gentle jade-like face bore a gentle smile, quietly watching the auction below. Shi Shanglan. Yiqing Luo subconsciously grabbed Dmo Xian's sleeve tightly. Did he make a move on Jin Zi and Xiao Yi? Shi Shanglan was actually in the right corner of their private room. From the angle of her private room, she really couldn't see clearly. And with the veil covering, it was impossible to notice that private room. If it wasn't for Dmo Xian's detection, she probably wouldn't be able to sense who was in that private room till the end of the auction. But, from that angle, Shi Shanglan could totally see their entire private room. These 4 invitations were prepared by Shi Shanglan for them. The private room's location was also decided by Shi Shanglan. Was he trying to spy on them? His target is you. Dmo Xian's meaning was that Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin were currently safe. Yiqing Luo raised her head. Since he wants to deal with me, why? Specially let Xiaoyi come here? You're like a loach. He shed all pretenses to capture you, but if you run away, wouldn't there be no more chances in future? Dmo Xian patted her shoulder lightly. Warm embrace, warm breath, elegant sandalwood fragrance. All of these gave Yiqing Luo a sense of security. His identity is Xiao Yi's fiancé. Using Xiao Yi's name, he invited you to treasure gathering chambers so that it wouldn't arouse your suspicions and the other brother's suspicions. Moreover, with Xiao Yi in his hands, even if they shed all pretenses, he's not afraid that you will run away. Dmo Xian's voice calmly analyzed Shi Shanglan's motive. When does he intend to make a move on me? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. Moreover, he knows that I have you by my side, so he shouldn't dare to act rashly. So, without absolute confidence, he wouldn't dare to make a move easily. Dmo Xian leaned close to her ear. Today, you must not leave my side. Yiqing Luo felt her skin itching as she shrank back and hung her head down as she grumbled. I know, I will definitely hug your thick thighs tightly. Don't just talk about it, if you leave me on your own accord, when we return. Dmo Xian's voice lowered again. I will punish you. You won't be able to get off the bed. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled, her little head leaned on his chest, shaking and swaying. You beast. I won't give you that chance. She absolutely believed it. This man would do what he said. In the opposite corner of the private room, Shi Shanglan held a cup of tea and took a sip. His gentle gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo's private room. The white veil fluttered. A man and a woman hugged each other tightly and seemed to be whispering something. After that, the girl shyly stepped into the man's embrace, as if she was acting coquettishly. From Shi Shanglan's angle, he could see the side of the man's face that had a teasing smile on it. His gentle eyes flashed past a trace of ridicule. Young master, the overlord has always been sinister and cunning, could it be? Behind the private room, an ugly and extremely sinister skinny old man opened his mouth in a low voice. Before he could finish his words, Shi Shanglan raised his hand, until the little old man's voice was heard. His thin lips rose slightly, as gentle as the wind, like the spring breeze caressing one's face. However, if one were to look closely, one would find that the smile was actually hiding an extremely cold and sinister aura. Chapter 1794. No matter how strong or how heaven-defying a man was, he was still a man. Once he falls in love with a woman, he would no longer be strong. Even Dmo Xian was the same. Because he had his own weakness. With a weak spot nearby, one's perception would decrease. The current Dmo Xian was wholeheartedly pampering his beloved young lady, so how would he possibly notice their plans? What's more, someone like Yiqing Luo who valued relationships and righteousness. He had the two men in his hands. He didn't believe that Yiqing Luo would abandon his brothers and leave with Dmo Xian. As for him, he only needed to suppress Yiqing Luo. Were they still afraid that Dmo Xian would not surrender obediently? This time, not only could he help his father to bring Yiqing Luo back to the island, they could even capture Dmo Xian along with them. At the same time, he could also make use of Dmo Xian, to take all the forces in the imperial palace for his own use. At that time, he would be his father's favorite son. He would also become the future island master. The skinny old man frowned. Young master, you are too confident. This kind of confidence is not a good thing. As the future master of the island, he naturally hoped that the young master could face everything with confidence. However, the other party was Di Zun. He was a legendary figure in the Nirvana realm. Even the island lord wouldn't dare to touch the Arch Palace. The young master actually wanted to swallow the entire imperial palace? Wasn't his appetite a little too big? I guarantee that nothing will go wrong with today's plan. Shi Shanglan's expression suddenly darkened when he heard someone questioning him. His eyes and smile were still as gentle as the spring breeze. However, there was a strange viciousness to it. No matter how one looked at that face that was as gentle as jade, there was a sense of incongruity. Wu Sha, you just need to follow this young master's plan and arrange everything properly. After today's matter, this young master will definitely raise the status of you three siblings on the island. When the skinny old man called Wu Sha heard that, the words of advice stopped at the tip of his tongue. Far away, Yiqing Luo's private room. Dmo Xian hugged Yiqing Luo's petite body, but his peripheral vision was faintly discernible as he shot a glance at Shi Shanglan. Ah Xian, after Shi Shanglan makes his move, if we follow him, will we be able to find Xiao Yi and Jin Zi? Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian caressed her fine black hair, so, what we can do now, is to wait. Wait, Yiqing Luo pursed her lips, but he hasn't taken any action. Does it mean that he isn't fully prepared? If we continue to wait, won't we be giving them a chance to prepare? What is his identity? What is the power behind him? Not to mention, since he chose to make a move in the treasure-gathering pavilion with a few tens of thousands of people, even if he wasn't completely prepared, he would absolutely not give us the chance to take advantage of the situation. Dmo Xian lowered his head and looked at Yiqing Luo, who was unable to conceal the anxiety in her heart as he sighed softly. Everything about his lass was perfect. He was too sentimental and righteous. If a true expert had too many restraints in his heart, he would not be able to escape. This kind of restraint would only become a stumbling block to reaching the top. However, it was also because of the importance she attached to relationships. It was precisely because she seemed cold and hard, but in fact, she was a gentle girl. She attracted his gaze. His beloved Lil Luo, It was this kind of Lil Luo, Chapter 1795. Yes, she wanted to bid for the heavenly primordial serene grass and use it to refine pills for the two little sacred beasts. But in the current situation, how could she care about the Tianyuan serene grass? But when Yiqing Luo raised her head and met with Dmo Xian's glistening peach blossom eyes, her petite body suddenly trembled. Right, her goal was to retrieve the sky primordial serene grass. If she didn't care about the Tianyuan serene grass, wouldn't she Shanlan, who had been spying on her in the dark, sense her abnormality? She could not let Shi Shanlan suspect anything. She must bid for this returning heaven primordial serene grass. Now. What number of items are we at now? Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked outside the veil towards the direction of the first floor. The 9th item. Dmo Xian took her to the railing, returning heaven primordial serene grass. The 9th item for auction was the sky returning primordial serene grass which Yiqing Luo wanted. Fortunately, he did not miss it. At this moment, there were still more than 3,000 people bidding for the heaven returning origin serene grass. The base price was 50,000 gold coins, and the returning heaven primordial serene grass started at 10,000 gold coins each time. The price had already reached 3 million gold coins. It was obvious how many profound practitioners were yearning for the returning heaven origin serene grass. As long as they could obtain the heaven restoring origin serene grass and refine it, they would be able to achieve a breakthrough and bring glory to their clans. This was a glory that could not be bought no matter how much money one spent. Now that he was feeling the pinch, he had to spend some money. It would be good for the future. In an instant, the price of the heaven returning serene grass soared to 5 million gold coins. And the person who called out this price was Prime Minister's son, who was seated in the cabin not too far away from Yiqing Luo. Prime Minister's son was the strongest person in the Sun family. He was unrivaled along the way and became the Prime Minister of the Eastern continent. Not only did he rely on his means, but he also relied on his ability. The current Prime Minister's son was already a high-level Earth Profound 8th grade Profound practitioner. He was only a step away from advancing to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound realm. If he consumed the pill refined from the heaven restoring serene grass, he might be able to step into the sky profound realm. He had already invited a Grandmaster alchemist to refine a pill for his advancement. Prime Minister's son was determined to obtain the returning heaven primordial serene grass. He was auctioning something in the auction house. What mattered was not who was more powerful. It was about who had more money. Many rich kids began to bid again. Prime Minister's son couldn't wait to get the returning sky yuan serene grass, so he didn't bother to argue with the others. 10 million gold coins. The atmosphere suddenly froze. The clamor instantly died down. 10 million gold coins? Could Prime Minister's son afford that much money? The East Wave continent was so fertile. Spending 10 million gold coins for an herb that could raise the mystic rank? Was Prime Minister's son crazy? Or, did he want to obtain this stock of medicinal herb to advance? Promotion? Everyone in the auction house looked at Prime Minister's son's private room enviously. If Prime Minister's son wanted to ascend to the Sky Profound realm, he would become a Sky Profound Supreme Expert. Indeed, he did not care about money. Once he succeeded in becoming a sovereign of the Sky Profound realm, even if it was 30 million or 40 million, he was willing to spend it. 10 million gold coins. 10 million gold coins, are there any other bids? The white-browed old man hit the auction stage with a hammer. He shouted at the top of his lungs, but no one responded. He raised his hammer high. 10 million gold coins going once. 10 million gold coins going twice. 10 million. 15 million. Suddenly, a sweet voice was heard. Another 5 million? Everyone was stunned. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice to see who was so daring. Chapter 1796. In the VIP box on the second floor, a slender jade-like hand lifted the white veil. It revealed the face of a beautiful young girl. The girl was dressed in a fiery red dress. Standing behind the veil, the flaming skirt was like a phoenix spreading its wings, flashing with a charm that made one unable to look away. Facing tens of thousands of pairs of eyes that were looking at him in unison. The girl was extremely calm and did not have the slightest bit of stage fright. Instead, she revealed a dazzling smile. It was like a blooming poppy, exuding a suffocating charm. Yi-Ching Luo, it's Yi-Ching Luo. I was wondering who dared to challenge Prime Minister Sun at this time. Other than Yi-Ching Luo, there's no one else. Among the people seated on the first floor, someone immediately recognized Yi-Ching Luo. After all, there were at least 1,000 people queuing at the entrance of the treasure-gathering pavilion. The Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li families, as well as Prime Minister Sun's bullying. They all saw it. Now that he saw Yi-Ching Luo standing out to challenge Prime Minister Sunday, they were not surprised at all. When Yi-Ching Luo's name was called out, the entire auction hall was in an uproar. Almost 10,000 people all stood up as they raised their heads to look at Yi-Ching Luo's cabin. After all, ever since Yi-Ching Luo returned to the headquarters from the Dark Forces, Yi-Ching Luo's name had already spread throughout the entire country. There was no one in the entire Nirvana realm who did not know about it. He had to rescue the students of the various academies who were trapped in the dark spell. He became the benefactor of the various powers and sections. Then, he risked his life to sneak into the base camp of the Dark Forces and secretly revealed the location of the base to the Imperial Palace. Most importantly, this girl was only 15 years old. The girl who had been called trash in the past. Using his own strength, he sealed the King of Darkness consciousness. He had crushed the conspiracy of the Dark Forces. Even the ghost martial arts master, who had never been interested in anything other than practicing martial arts, was full of praise for him. Furthermore, he had a golden mouth to judge. In the future, Yi-Ching Luo would definitely be a talent who could ascend to the upper realm. Such a big name. It attracted the attention of tens of thousands of people every minute. Yi-Ching Luo had totally not expected that she would actually cause such a huge commotion. Even when he obtained the divine artifact in the tomb of the Ling King, it did not cause such a huge commotion. She was completely famous. 20 million. Just as everyone was admiring Yi-Ching Luo, Prime Minister Sun was so infuriated that his chest kept heaving up and down as he clenched his teeth and spat out 3 words. Everyone turned to look at Prime Minister Sun again. Looks like Prime Minister Sun was determined not to let go. And that 15-year-old girl obviously didn't want to let Prime Minister Sun have an easy time. 21 million. Yi-Ching Luo smiled lightly as she wasn't in a hurry to increase the bid. Prime Minister Sun slammed the table and glared at her angrily. Stupid girl. Do you know the rules of the treasure-gathering pavilion? Once the deal is made, it must be done on the spot. She was just a 15-year-old girl. Even though she had become famous to the point where she was known by everyone, she was still a little girl. However, it was only a matter of a few days. Even if the General Hospital were to intervene, they wouldn't be able to prepare 30 million gold coins for her in such a short time. Premier Sun absolutely didn't believe that Yi-Ching Luo could take out so many gold coins. Yi-Ching Luo raised her brows. I know, is there a problem? Prime Minister Sun seemed as though he had eaten half a fly as he didn't know whether to swallow or spit it out. The surrounding people didn't give him any face as they all burst out laughing with a pft. The meaning in Yi-Ching Luo's words was very obvious. She wasn't afraid to do the transaction on the spot. Chapter 1797. Prime Minister Sun suppressed his anger as he called out again, 25 million. Yi-Ching Luo's expression didn't change, 26 million. Obviously, Yi Qing Luo was going against him. No one was willing to give in. As for the other tycoons, they were also extremely interested in this medicinal herb. Earlier it was because they heard that Prime Minister's son was going to advance to Sky Profound stage and they weren't willing to offend a Sky Profound overlord. But now, Yi Qing Luo was blocking in front of them. Those tycoons also started to call out their prices in a probing manner. It was just a joss stick's time and the price had already reached 57 million. Many of the tycoons were sweating profusely as they looked at the sky-recovering primordial serene grass with extravagant hopes. But the price had exceeded what they could accept. What was left was a stalemate between Prime Minister's son and Yi Qing Luo. 60 million. Just 3 words and one could tell that Prime Minister's son was gritting his teeth. Apparently, the current price had touched his bottom line. 61 million. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly as she continued to increase the bid by 1 million. The surrounding people were in a flurry of discussion. They were all guessing what was Yi Qing Luo's identity. She was actually able to take out so many gold coins without any change in expression. Even if the number 1 tycoon was here, he wouldn't be able to take out 60 million gold coins without any heartache. Did Yi Qing Luo really have so much money? There were quite a number of people who were directly betting on the final price of the sky-recovering primordial serene grass. The white-browed elderly held the hammer as he raised his voice. 61 million. Are there any higher bids than 61 million? 61 million going once. 6,000. 65 million. The tensed voice was as though the words were squeezed out from the slits of his teeth. Prime Minister's son's expression was steely green. He clenched his fists tightly as he suppressed his rage. No matter what, he absolutely could not fly into a rage on the spot. When he got the sky-recovering primordial serene grass and refined the medicinal pill. When he advanced to Sky Profound stage. He had plenty of ways to make Yi Qing Luo live a life worse than death. This time, after hearing Prime Minister's son's bid, Yi Qing Luo didn't immediately increase the bid by 1 million. The surrounding crowd guessed that 65 million should be Yi Qing Luo's limit. But the next moment, Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly widened as she blinked. Prime Minister's son, you're so rich, 65 million, I'm afraid even the East Continent's treasury doesn't have so much money, right? As far as she knew. The East Wave continent most likely didn't have the ability to take out 650,000 gold coins at once. Prime Minister's son's offer was even higher than the East Water continent's national treasury. Obviously, Prime Minister's son was not clean. Everyone also thought of this point when they heard Yi Qing Luo's seemingly innocent question. He looked at Prime Minister's son suspiciously. There were also many people from the East Wave continent present. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the expression on his face suddenly turned gloomy. No matter how wealthy a prime minister was, it was impossible for him to take out 65 million gold coins in one go. Even the East Water continent's Jade Dome sect might not be able to afford it. Where did Prime Minister's son get his money from? The answer, even if one used their toes to think, could be guessed. You. Where my money came from, has nothing to do with you. Prime Minister's son's face was gloomy as his eyes were filled with malice. He clenched his fists tightly as his other hand wiped the sweat which seeped out from his forehead. Yi Qing Luo's long-ending tone dragged out an "oh." Following that, she looked at Prime Minister's son with a beaming smile as she said word by word, 66 million. Chapter 1798. Yi Qing Luo. Prime Minister's son couldn't bear it any longer. What on earth do you want to do? Looking at Prime Minister's son's embarrassment turning into anger, unable to maintain the Prime Minister's dignified look, Yi Qing Luo's brows curved as she smiled delightfully. What do I want to do? I want the Tianyuan serene grass back. You. Prime Minister's son pointed angrily at Yi Qing Luo as he panted in anger. Yi Qing Luo spread out her hands as she shrugged her shoulders with a helpless look. Prime Minister's son just has to quarrel with a junior like me. What else can I do? I'm also in despair. Prime Minister's son's dry lips kept trembling. He clutched his chest and gasped for air. "Prime Minister's son, do you still want to bid?" The white-browed old man interrupted the quarrel between the two guests. As the auctioneer of Jubao Pavilion, looking at this kind of customer who was completely playing with money in order to go against the other party, he loved it the most. But no matter what, that girl seemed to have a good relationship with young Master Shi. Bidding. Of course. Prime Minister's son took a deep breath to calm himself down. The white-browed old man was the chief auctioneer of the treasure-gathering pavilion, and he was also one of the managers of the treasure-gathering pavilion. Naturally, Prime Minister's son did not dare to offend him. 67 million. Prime Minister's son's heart felt as if it was being cut by a knife. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she gave a thumbs up to Prime Minister's son for being able to persist till now. Was Prime Minister's son going to use his entire fortune to buy this sky-restoring serene grass? He really went out in a whoosh. Was he certain that he would have the opportunity to break through to the sky-profound realm? So, he had already disregarded the consequences and was going all out? 67 million. It wasn't that she was out of money. The money she had was more than enough to deal with Prime Minister Sunday. When Dmo Xian gave her the profound phoenix ring, there was a huge pile of coins inside. After that, she went around swindling and abducting people, plus the cooperation with the Mu brothers. He had earned quite a lot of money. Although the majority of the coins that she was bidding for were those that Dmo Xian had placed in the profound phoenix ring. However, she still felt heartache. After all, when they got married in the future, Dmo Xian's money would also belong to her. Now that she was spending so extravagantly, her heart ached for her small amount of money. Cough cough, of course, Yiqing Luo totally didn't want to spend 60 to 70 million gold coins to bid for a stock of 1,000-years-old medicinal herb. 10 to 20 million was still within her acceptable range. It would be foolish to buy it at a price several times higher than this price. The only reason why she kept bidding was to annoy Prime Minister Sunday. But, it seemed that Prime Minister's son had almost reached his bottom line. If the bidding continued and Prime Minister's son gave up, she would really feel distressed about her money. Suddenly, the hand around her waist tightened. Yiqing Luo instinctively blurted out, 68 million. The arm around his waist tightened even more. Yiqing Luo was puzzled as she looked sideways at Dmo Xian. But Dmo Xian's expression was grave and his face was chilly. He made his move. What? Dmo Xian hugged her waist, not to let her raise the price, but to remind her. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as her gaze immediately shot towards Shi Shanglan's cabin. He realized that Shi Shanglan's voice had indeed disappeared. There was no one in that private room. Let's hurry up and catch up. Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to continue bickering with Prime Minister's son as she anxiously tugged Dmo Xian's arm, trying to catch up with Shi Shanglan. Chapter 1799. Yiqing Luo's breathing grew heavier and she tried her best to slow down her breathing. That was right. Dmo Xian was right. She was the center of attention. Everyone's gaze was fixed on her. If she leaves, Shi Shanglan would definitely be suspicious. Once Shi Shanglan became suspicious, Xiao Yi and Jin Zi were probably in danger. She had to believe in Dmo Xian, to believe in Little Nine. At this moment, Prime Minister's son's private room was frozen. The butler next to him tried to persuade Prime Minister's son to give up on the returning sky serene grass. He was slapped away by Prime Minister Sunday. Now, it was no longer just a problem of a single stalk of herb. He was the Prime Minister of the East Wave continent. If he lost to a 15-year-old girl in terms of money, then he would lose. Wouldn't that be a joke? He had given up on the returning heaven-essence serene grass. There were people from all over the world, from all continents, and from all kinds of forces. In the future, they might laugh at the Sun family. Perhaps they would laugh at the East Water continent. More importantly, the news that he was about to step into the profound Sky Supreme realm had already spread. If he could not advance to the Sky Profound realm, the Sun clan had climbed to their current position by stepping on the heads and corpses of many people. Those sworn enemies of the Sun family would definitely not give him the chance to advance to the Sky Profound realm. No matter what, he was determined to obtain the heaven-returning essence Serene Grass. Prime Minister Sun's eyes were bloodshot. He clenched his teeth, stood up, and walked to the railing. His hand gripped the railing tightly as he said word by word, 70 million. The auction hall was silent. Everyone turned to look at Prime Minister Sunday. Prime Minister Sun was sweating profusely, breathing heavily, and his face was flushed. Everyone knew that Prime Minister Sun must have taken out his entire fortune to bid for this herb, in order to advance to the Sky Profound realm. Prime Minister Sun was really going all out. The people present were all shrewd people. He also knew that Prime Minister Sun was really angry now. Challenging him at this time would drive Prime Minister Sun crazy. Furthermore, 70 million. That was 70 million. And they were all gold coins. Gold coins. Even if he was a tycoon, he wouldn't be able to take out so many gold coins. Immediately following that, everyone's gazes shot towards Yi Qing Luo's cabin. Unknowingly, Yi Qing Luo had put down the veil, concealing everything in the private room. The whole place fell silent once again. Is he giving up? The white-browed elderly was also looking towards Yi Qing Luo's cabin in astonishment. Yi Qing Luo's bid didn't come even after a long time. Prime Minister Sun's heart was burning with anxiety, and he clenched his fists tightly. Manager of the Treasure Gathering Pavilion, time has passed, please drop the hammer. The white-browed elderly looked at Yi Qing Luo's private room for some time before he raised his hammer and shouted, 70 million. 70 million going once. 70 million twice. 70 million. He paused for a moment. The surroundings were still silent. The white-browed old man made the final call, 70 million going thrice. Deal. A silent battle finally came to an end. Everyone sighed. He had not expected Yi Qing Luo to choose to give up the bidding in the end. But, it was true. Even if the entire Western continent used their national treasury and Three Springs sect to gather 70 million gold coins, they might not be able to gather that much. Yi Qing Luo was an earth-profound cultivator. She was still 1,000 miles away from the Sky-Profound realm. There was no need to spend all her fortune to buy this stock of herb. Yi Qing Luo's decision to give up was within everyone's expectations. In the end, Prime Minister Sun obtained the sky-returning primordial serene grass at the price of 70 million gold coins. Chapter 1800. His face was ashen and his eyes were gloomy. If it wasn't for the fact that they were still at the Jubao Pavilion's venue, he probably wanted to rush over to Yi Qing Luo's private room and dismember her into 1,000 pieces. Prime Minister Sun tore off the veil angrily. The steward of Jubao Pavilion delivered the heaven-returning serene grass to the private room. He left immediately. He didn't have the slightest interest in any other rare treasures. Even if he was interested, he didn't have any more money to bid. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's private room. When Prime Minister Sun shouted 70 million gold coins, Dmo Xian's arm tightened as he lowered his voice, "We're here, let's go." Yi Qing Luo immediately tore off her veil. Where would she find the mood to raise the price with Prime Minister Sunday? Before leaving, Dmo Xian flicked his finger lightly. Shiruashi, who had been unconscious, opened her eyes in a daze. Before he could pounce into Yi Qing Luo's arms, his shoulder was pressed down by Yi Qing Luo's arm. Shiruashi's body fell back onto the chair. "Little Shi, you have to help me with something," Yi Qing Luo said seriously. Shiruashi's face flushed red as she nodded in a daze. "Whatever Sister Qing Luo needs, little Shi will definitely help you settle it." She felt that this kind of sister was so dashing. "Ah, Xian and I are going out to do something. You stay here and pretend to be me." Yi Qing Luo pointed to the veil at the side. Stand in front of the veil and don't lift it up. If you have nothing to do, raise a sign and shout out a price. Ah. Wi. Shiruashi was confused. I'll explain it to you when I get back. Only you can help me now. Yi Qing Luo saw the urging in Dmo Xian's eyes and whispered to Shiruashi, Little Shi, you won't let me down, right? No. No way. Shiruashi immediately widened her eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, the hands on her shoulders suddenly felt lighter. Yi Qing Luo had already stood up straight as she pulled Dmo Xian out of the room quietly. He looked at the empty room. Shiruashi was still in a daze. In his mind, he rearranged what Yi Qing Luo had said earlier. Shiruashi had been by her brother's side since she was a child, dealing with the Shi family's affairs. Naturally, it wasn't as harmless as it seemed on the surface. She quickly understood that Sister Qing Luo definitely had something to settle. Moreover, they couldn't expose that Sister Qing Luo wasn't in the cabin. With that in mind, Shiruashi clenched her fists. This was the first time Sister Qing Luo had entrusted her with a task. She must do it well. After leaving the private room, Yi Qing Luo was worried about leaving Shiruashi alone in the private room. After all, Shi Shanglan's spies were all around that private room. What was Shi Shanglan's identity? She had no way of knowing. She could not let Shiruashi get hurt because of her. Yi Qing Luo nestled in Dmo Xian's arms as he carried her and chased after the nine-tailed fox. Yi Qing Luo took out a message shell from the profound phoenix ring. Yi Qing Luo had never used this before. After leaving a message in the shell, when Dmo Xian passed by Shiruayu, Yi Qing Luo stuffed the shell into Shiruayu's hand. Shiruayu was standing backstage, watching the 10th auction item. Suddenly, his body was hit by someone. When he raised his head, he only had time to catch a glimpse of shimmering purple. In his hand, there was a hard object. He frowned as he looked around the surroundings alertly. He didn't detect any abnormality at all. Even the steward beside him had a composed expression as he continued with his work. Which meant that someone had bumped into him earlier. Other than him, no one else sensed it. His heart suddenly tightened. Chapter 1801. Jubao Pavilion, in a dark secret room. In the silence, suddenly, a creaking sound came from the only wooden bed in the secret room. Following that, a petite figure sat up. Her soft and powerless hands grabbed the side of the bed, trying to climb down the bed. But she was obviously out of strength. Her hands left the side of the bed. His whole body fell from the bed. With a bang, the door to the secret room was opened. A tall figure slowly walked into the secret room. The scene in the secret room was comical and funny. The girl's upper body was on the ground, her face was covered in dust and weeds. And her lower body was still hanging on the bed. She heard someone approaching. The girl forced herself to stay conscious and looked over. The candlelight flickered, and it was extremely dark. She could vaguely see 2 feet in front of her, as well as a brown robe. Clouds rolled out of the golden edges of the robe. Her heart trembled, and her lips moved slightly. But she didn't have any strength to make a sound. Xiao Yi, look at you. I'm not by your side, and you torment yourself like this. A gentle voice floated over from above her head. Soon after, the tall figure had already stooped down. 2 thin but powerful arms wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's slender waist. Yan Xiaoyi's breathing tightened, and she tried to struggle. But she felt as if all the strength in her body had been sucked out. She couldn't push away the person who was hugging her. Sensing Yan Xiaoyi's movements, that gentle voice floated over again. Xiao Yi, it's because I love you too much. You're my fiancé. In your heart, there should only be me. Yan Xiao Yi opened her mouth. She used all her strength to spit out an inaudible breath. You, shameless. The dim candlelight flickered incessantly. Faintly, it shone on Shi Shanglan's gentle face. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and a warm smile appeared on his face. No matter how one looked at him, he looked like a handsome young master. But when Yan Xiaoyi saw that face, a hint of anger appeared on her face. However, just as she uttered those 3 words, she seemed to have lost all her strength and fell into Shi Shanglan's arms. Shi Shanglan had drugged her. Too despicable. What was Shi Shanglan trying to do? He actually dared to make a move on her in treasure-gathering pavilion's territory. Yan Xiaoyi still remembered it clearly. After she had a chat with Yiqing Luo yesterday, she was determined to try her best to forget the feeling of loving Qiao Jin. She would not do anything, because she couldn't be with Qiao Jin as an engaged couple. She had to force her brothers to choose between her and Qiao Jin, and so on and so forth. She loved Qiao Jin. He also loved his brothers. Giving up on Qiao Jin didn't mean giving up on those brothers. Yan Xiaoyi had already tried her best to keep the atmosphere between her and Qiao Jin the same as before. However, Qiao Jin's reaction. It still pierced her heart. Said to let go. But he was unable to truly let go. She was afraid that she would cry in front of Qiao Jin. He was also afraid of arousing Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's worries. Therefore, she took the opportunity to blend into the crowd. She only wanted to wait for her emotions to stabilize before returning to their side. But she had just left Yiqing Luo for a short while. Her tears didn't even have time to fall. A pungent fragrance filled her nostrils. She had no time to react before she completely lost consciousness. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.